And then I just like put it in the Word document like this, and then like have each one be a separate page.
Yeah.
Like that.
Mm-hmm.
Even like these.
Those. Okay, so you should have a screenshot of your groups as well from LinkedIn.
Okay, so I don't think I have any groups. I requested to be in like 60 different groups and nobody accepted me.
So one of the easier ways to get groups is that if you have like a friend or like a coworker or something that's in a group on LinkedIn, they can directly add you to it.
Okay. So like even BYU Idaho didn't accept me being in a group.
How long ago did you?
Like 3 weeks ago.
Okay. Yeah, I would just like find a friend who's in a group and they can add you to it. And for the most part, your portfolio should be in this order, except for the next 30 seconds. It's going to be after your career aspirations page.
Oh, okay. When I bind it all together?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that's all I have.
Alright, so let's go to the very bottom.
You got it.
Yeah.
Hey guys, can you hear me okay?
Seriously, like I was like, what? I just added a bunch of groups that I could think of.
Yes, a good idea.
Okay, good. So it looks like we have
Where does it show? Are you in any groups?
Courtney,
Do it. It pulls them up right here, but it doesn't.
Carrie,
Courtney,
I can hear you.
Courtney, could you mute?
Oh, okay. So these aren't my groups here?
Courtney, Carrie, and Stephanie looks like we've got.
Yeah, I can hear.
Okay,
Carrie
great.
just dropped.
Thanks for joining. Looks like we just lost Carrie. Okay, well, thanks for joining. So I just wanted to ask you guys how things were going. Looks like we got Carrie back, and now Peter. Hi, Peter.
I think it's going okay. This is probably more familiar territory for me the last couple of weeks because I've been doing business related things. So
okay, good. So you
it's
feel
a
a
little
little more.
easier probably, but it's kind of interesting because when I first started working, I worked for a cable company that had their own securities company that sold, so I was in the finance department, so I did the SEC filings with the quarterly and yearly filings because I was the assistant to the controller.
Yeah.
And learning the other piece of it has been really helpful to me to kind of put it all together.
Oh, okay. Good. That's good. I'm glad you're kind of, maybe you can help others in your group too and along, because it's these things can be new territory for some people. It sounds like you've got some good experience here.
Well, at least on the finance side of it.
Yeah. That's good. Anyone struggling at all with the content so far? It's new to you, the kind of the organizational stuff. We're not expecting you to know how to go file a C Corp or an S Corp tomorrow, but at least knowing the difference between corporation, partnership, proprietorship, limited liability company, and kind of some of the reasons why there's differences.
Can you talk a little bit more about the limited liability company versus like an S Corp for smaller corporations? Is there a benefit one to the other? Because I can't see a big difference except for tax kind of related things.
Yeah, it's actually a really good question. When the corporation standards were set, the S Corp for small corporations was set up to try to give certain advantages or remove a lot of the bureaucracy, I guess, from the major filings of a large corporation. Hold on just one second. What, honey?
My favorite necklace.
Okay. I'll be there in just a second, okay? Okay, but you shouldn't do that, honey. That's not very nice. Hold on for a minute, okay? I'll be there in about 10 minutes, okay? All right, we got a mom at yoga right now, so it was her birthday the other day, so. But yeah, so it's a good question. You know, why then have a limited liability company if you have similar advantages of the S corp? And when the C corporation came along, you know, you had this massive idea of you know, originally you just had basically partnerships and proprietorships, but what was happening is people who would go bankrupt, they'd quickly get sued, and then their personal assets, like their homes and everything, would be taken from them. And so the C corporation was kind of invented, if you will, as a matter of statute, so that you could say, well, this corporation is actually an entity, like my person is an entity. It's just that entity owns those desks and those chairs and those bank accounts. So if it goes bankrupt or if it goes under, you know, the creditors can have whatever in that entity, but not my stuff that's over here. And but the problem with the C corp, and I know, Carrie, this is what you already know, but just for everybody's sake, the problem with the C corp is when they built it, they built, you know, this grandiose structure because they were worried it would be abused. So you had to have, you know, massive stock arrangements, and you know, you got taxed on both whatever you took out of the company as personal income, but also the company, the C corp, was taxed as well. So like you said, then along comes, you know, the legislature and says, well, now that we trust the C corp a little bit more, we'll make S corps, because if you force every small dry cleaning business to file a C corp with thousands of shares and big stock certificates and getting taxed as an entity, and then the poor dry cleaner taking an income of $20,000 a year and being taxed on that as well, double taxed, that's not really what it was bankrupting a lot of people, just the structure of this grandiose thing. So the small corporation, or the S corp, was invented, like Carrie said, to kind of help them with the tax problem. But you still had kind of this burden of the shares. You know, you still had to issue shares, and you still had to, you know, call people shareholders. You still had to kind of this liability differential, but there was still a lot of structure around it. And so basically what happened is then, you know, recently, and when I say recently, maybe in the last 35 years, they invented what's called the limited liability company. And Delaware kind of kicked it off, but basically that LLC that you see is basically an even more streamlined way of just saying, look, we understand that the corporations were created with all this grandiose kind of Mont Blanc pen rigor to protect against abuse, but we're America. We got to be efficient, and so let's create a limited liability company that through statute that will allow the same liability protections of the bigger corporations and S corps and C corps, but doesn't require all the administration and administrivia of stock certificates and everything. Instead of calling people shareholders, we'll call them members. And you can kind of just have one, you know, articles of formation, or you can call it whatever you want, really, as a limited liability company. And you can just issue members, not even share certificates or anything. You just basically issue them out a percentage of membership. They still get the same tax advantage of the bigger entities, because, or the S corp, because they're not taxed twice. And that's the big thing that Carrie's getting at, is the S corp, the limited liability company, isn't taxed as an entity. The IRS doesn't strangle the LLC and then strangle, you know, Peter or Stephanie saying, we want your the income you took from that company too, as income as its manager, CEO, or founder. It only taxes what you take as income. And so Carrie's issue was, well, why are there two things then that have that tax advantage of only being taxed once? Why don't they just, why don't you just have one entity that's just called S Corp? And really it's to get rid of the administrivia associated with share certificates and everything else. The benefit of an S Corp is that you can actually, there's ways that you can do an IPO out of an S Corp. And you can't do an IPO, an initial public offering, with a limited liability company. You can never take it public. You'd have to convert it into one of these corporations with shares in order to be able to make 10 billion shares to be able to sell publicly to the world. So you have to watch that. I mean, if you really think that you're the next Google, and yet, it only costs you, $50 to file a limited liability company, and it looks easier and faster, and you don't want to deal with all the quarterly meetings and everything you have to do with S Corps and C Corps, but your idea is going to go big. Remember that you're going to have to shift then, you have to change it all over to a C Corp later on in order to initial public offering it out into the world to really make the big money. Because a LLC, it only has memberships, and it doesn't really offer anything else on a grandiose scale. So Carrie, sorry, more than you wanted to hear, but that's kind of some of the main differences. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, that really actually helps, because that's kind of what I was wondering, is if you ever wanted to go public, what was the better option? But if you don't ever want to go public, then it sounds like an LLC might be the best option in the first place. If it's just like a husband and wife, and it's their business and they don't want to grow or expand, they just want to be protected, so they're not personally liable, that sounds like an LLC might be the better option then.
Yeah, you have to decide, small and efficient little maybe chain of Jamba Juices that you just want to run, that you want that protection so that they don't go after Courtney's house. If they all go belly up, they're not going to come after Carrie's house or whatever. LLC is fine for that. That's perfect. But if you think your idea is big enough, you want to start thinking about the C Corp, where you have shares that you can then create from 1,000 shares. You can divide it out and create 1,000,000 shares and still own the same percentages, 51% or 75%, whatever, is the owner, and divvy it out to the world. And then as your share price raises, of course, the number of shares you have, valuation rises up with the market that is now buying and selling on your idea, your corporation.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
So it's good that you have experience with it, Carrie, because when you see it financially internally, boy, it just makes it, opens up, a lot more vista. But it's not to say that this class is really going to get into the depth that Carrie knows. It's just you need to understand why these weird structures kind of came about. A long time ago, when you were bartering things, thousands of years ago or whatever, you were basically a sole proprietorship, and all you had was your apple cart. And if you didn't pay your debts, they could throw you into debtor's prison. You even had to pay for your own food or you'd starve. Now there's all these, then there's partnerships, and partnerships cover the debts of each other. So at least you and your partner could at least cover for a while until you got on your feet. Then they noticed that people were still stealing, all their house and all their assets and their children and everything, in a partnership. So, boy, how do we keep America strong? By giving them a chance to fail, but not ruining them personally. Then that's where the C Corp and S Corp came along, and now we're really efficient with the LLC. Line of Jamba Juice is just easy to file, $50, and a registration, and you're on your way. You don't have to mess with all those, quarterly meetings and voting by proxy and making sure all of your board of directors have notice of the meeting, and shares that do this, and on the back of the share you have to stamp this, and everything that those corporations require that maybe Carrie and others have dealt with. the LLC is very streamlined and quick, but just know this, your brilliant idea, you have to convert it to a corp if you want to do anything grandiose with it.
Okay, sounds good.
So, sorry to blather on, but any other issues or anything? I apologize that I'll have to cut the Hangout a little short. It looks like I've got some, what I thought were underage children under 9, but they apparently are teenage children now that are fighting. So
I did want to talk about that quiz.
okay, yeah. What can
Time
we?
for that, or is that something you want to do another time?
No, we can go into it. What's was it? Is it more? Is it? I think somebody had, maybe it was you, Courtney, but there was an issue too with the fact that it was only offered once rather than 3 times.
It was only offered once, but I had issue with the questions themselves.
Okay, let's talk about. Yeah, let's talk about a few of the questions. Can you bring up a few of those?
Number 1.
Okay.
Do you want me to read it or share my screen or?
Yeah, whichever you feel more comfortable with. That's great.
I'm good with sharing my screen. So in the actual transcript, said farm those out. And so I chose none of the above because the word was actually farm them out, not send them out.
Okay. So question number 1, according to Mr. Eatonhoff, an in-house attorneys blank equipped to handle the cases or major cases, and they farm them out versus send them out.
Right.
Okay. And in the text, your issue is that it doesn't match up with
with what he actually said. And so I didn't know if it was a trick question to say, well, is it farm them out or send them out, or is it just a different word? And so to me, the safer choice was to say none of the above, because that's not what he said.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. So had there been none of the above, you probably would have chosen one of the other 2, which would have
I would have done the send those out, but there was none of the above.
Okay. I'm going to have to look at this quiz. This quiz was it was written by the course creator, and I'm not happy that they didn't give you more than 1 attempt too. That kind of bothers me. But this one too, the fact that they're not using the same words is a little tricky, because then you're forced to say, well, if I say send the above by adding another word in there, even if could be synonymous, am I going to get it wrong by not just, following the trickiness of the? So I think what I may do is just, how many of these questions on this quiz do you think were unfair?
There's
overall?
one more that I got wrong. I don't know about unfair on the rest of them. I guess we could just go through them if you want, but you don't have time for that.
Well, show me the other one that you felt was not.
And see, these with extra, with all these different things, those drive me crazy. On the exam in here, I hate those.
Yeah. Okay.
This one. So I think that the answer is truly both C and D. You want it in writing, and you need it in writing that you can read and understand. And so I had a hard time deciding between the 2 of those.
Because it could be in clear, jargon-free verbal language, for example.
In talking to them, but if they're doing it in writing, it needs to be the same way.
So really, the correct answer should have said in clear, jargon-free written language or something like that. Would have given it away for you. Okay. Well, those 2 make sense to me. Maybe what did everybody else feel that the quiz, I mean, I'm going to give Stephanie those points, but does everybody feel like we need to either, how many feel like we should, you know, how many feel like it's fairest to give maybe 2 points back on the quiz as a reflection of poor answers and the fact that you only got to take it once? Or should I throw out the quiz? Or should I just give everybody 100%? I'm happy with one of those three choices if you'll be fair and honest with what you think I should do.
Like give everybody 100% would probably help more people of the three options.
Okay, so we got to vote for 100%.
I would agree. I got 100%, but
oh, good.
Because I assumed send and farm were the same thing, and I knew that it had said farm, but I would agree that it was some tricky wording, and I had to go back and look at the actual transcripts to make sure that those were exactly matching before I would submit it. So
that's what I did too. I went and I'm like, oh. And I went back and forth between them, not knowing what to do.
I did too.
Okay. Well, I'm not, you know, I don't grade on the curve. So, I mean, if you all get A's, you all get A's. So you're not competing against each other. I don't like teachers that do that. So even if it is, you know, one of those, you know, everybody. So I'm perfectly content with just giving everybody 100%. That just realizes everybody's vote's the same. It's not like you're in competition. You know, you're helping those that got 60 on the test. If you got 100, everybody's votes rises. I have no problem with that, because I think what we need to do is be fair, give you 3 chances on this, which most people get 100 on the quizzes anyway if you would have had 3 chances. And Stephanie's shown that a couple of these quiz questions that were handed down weren't really worded that well. So
they were a little tough, because I did the same thing with the other one. Was it really supposed to be written jargon free?
Yeah. Right. So Karen, how do you feel? You got 100. It won't help you no matter what. What do you feel is fair?
But I'm all for, when it's confusing to people, having that opportunity to raise that grade when you point them out. And it's just like with the exams that we can appeal. It's an appeal, and it makes sense. So I would think 100% for everybody. If that's okay with everybody else, that works with me.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to give everybody 100% on the quiz.
Sorry.
What was that? Week 8, week 9, or the week
8?
It was for week 8 quiz.
It was it's called week 8 review quiz.
Yeah, it's the week 8 review quiz. Okay,
Sorry.
I'm going to give you all, I'm going to tell everybody that those wonderful students that came tonight actually advocated, another synonym for lawyer, for the rest of the class, and that you guys were the ones that got this for them, so they should be very grateful for it. I'm going to call you out by name, and they should be very appreciative of what you did. Are there any other questions or concerns? If there are, I might have to set up another hangout for later this week, because I want to give you guys time to go through this.
Well, the other one I had was, it was really helpful the last exam that you kind of gave us the layout of what the topic was in the exam.
Okay.
So any way you can do that, even in an email or something, just kind of, because it helped me to go through my book and review those pieces and write down those page numbers, so I could quickly go back and reread it if the wording was funny, you know.
Okay, I will do that. If it's okay with you, just for sake of my kids that probably have knives by now, I will do that by email, if that's okay.
That's perfect. It just really helped when you kind of gave that listing of what was there.
Yeah, I did it with Peter. I remember he was on the call, and I think some people, I mean, I got kind of a nasty gram from my management saying, well, you gave a little bit too much on giving you the exact actual 2 exam questions. They thought that went a little too far.
But those 2 exam questions were from exam 1.
Yeah, they were.
Okay, well, they thought that my mere intent of even doing it was wrong.
Oh,
So-
yeah.
And I don't
So
care.
I was punished for the intent, but you know what? I thought the intent was right because I think the exams still are a little bit hard for this course. So I'm gonna just by email give you the breakdown for, I guess it'd be exam 5 that we're going into, right?
4.
Yeah, you know how you said last time, you said this topic, there's 1 or 2 questions on this topic, there's
Yeah.
1 question on this topic.
Okay.
It's exam 4, isn't it?
Exam 4. We're on exam. I'm sorry, my mind is on
You just
Intel
want to get done
Corporation
with this
now.
semester.
We're exam 4. We're going into exam 4, right?
Correct.
Okay. So I'm going to send that either tonight or tomorrow morning. I'll send kind of there'll be a couple of questions from this, and you can expect hopefully chronological. It should be chronologically because I don't mix them up, as you know.
Yeah.
So it'll probably be in that order too.
That really helped a lot. So.
Okay.
Because even if I couldn't get what the question was about, at least I knew kind of the area that I could go back and research.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. Okay. So with those 2 helps, I mean, sorry to cut us short about 30 minutes, but is that sufficient for tonight? And then if anybody wants to call me separately or email me, I'm happy to have kind of a one-on-one conversation as well this week.
Oh, that's perfect.
I think we're good.
Okay.
In the reading,
Very
I
good.
can get my eyeballs out, but other than that, I'm good.
Yeah, some sections are longer than others, but you guys have been good about this. It'll prepare you. If you're going to go to law school, get used to it. The
No,
reading
I
is ugly. Okay, well, you're smart. You're smart not to. So you're not a masochist, then I can tell. All right, very good. Well,
Oh,
it's good to
looks
talk
like
to you.
Danica just jumped on. Oh, no,
All right.
that's mine. No, she didn't. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, very good.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night, y'all.